In a chaotic world where wars never ended, martial arts decided everything. Strength was the only rule. The weak were crushed, and the strong ruled. At the very top stood a legendary warrior called the Fist King Asura. He was pure power and destruction. No one could match him. One day, he faced an enemy army of 100,000 soldiers alone. Their general mocked him, calling him a demon and asking if he had come to die. The general laughed and said one man could never stop so many. Asura turned his back, sneered, and repeated, 100,000. To him, the number meant nothing. He said relying on large numbers only showed they could never truly defeat him. Furious, the general ordered the attack. But Asura, unarmed and alone, released a massive wave of energy with one move. It destroyed the entire army and even shattered the battlefield. He was unstoppable. One by one, the greatest masters of the time fell before him. Finally, Asura conquered the whole land with his fists and united it under his rule. He created the Shura kingdom, with its beautiful capital city called Manhwa. Far away on a lonely mountain, under the moonlight, a blue light glowed. A woman named Manhwa met Asura there. She knelt, congratulated him on his victory, and said the world was now safe under his rule. Asura grew impatient and told her to speak plainly. Manhwa said he was the only person in history to unite the land by strength alone. No title like God of War was big enough for him anymore. She said she had called him there to give him a special gift, a secret manual of immense power that only he could master. Curious, Asura touched it. Suddenly, red liquid burst out and his blood dropped on magical liquid and magical chains appeared from nowhere. And they approached towards the Asura, they wrapped tightly around his arms and legs, binding him. Shocked by the betrayal, Asura struggled, but the chains were too strong. Manhwa smiled and said his rule was over. From that day, she would be queen. Asura glared silently. Looked at her. Then, anger rising, he reminded her who he was, the chosen one of heaven, the embodiment of destruction. Manhwa sensed danger and shouted for her allies to activate a magic barrier. But it was too late. Asura broke the chains with explosive force and punched forward. Red energy covered Asura's fist and in face and his whole body force to froze him in place. Asura released even more power, but the red energy turned against him and swallowed him whole. The traitors watched as Asura was completely sealed away. They knelt before Manhwa and hailed her as the new queen of the Shura kingdom. So the great Fist King Asura, ruler of the world, met a sad and lonely end. In the darkness, a system window suddenly appeared, asking someone to become a player. But a pair of fists smashed it to pieces. The scene changes. A young man named Yuda looks confused, unsure what just happened. A small fairy flies near him and shouts, Yuda, watch out. A huge dragon-like monster bursts from the shadows and attacks him. Yuda quickly draws his sword and dodges the strike. The monster's powerful blow still pushes him back, but he digs his sword into the ground to steady himself. The beast prepares to breathe fire. The system warns that the attack will take 2 seconds. Yuda has no time to fully react and is shocked, but he holds his ground. Flames explode toward him. Just in time, his system guide analyzes the attack and grants him strong fire resistance. He walks out of the flames completely unhurt. Yuda charges forward. His holy sword of Asterion glows brightly. He calls down a pillar of heavenly light and releases the attack. The beam strikes the monster's head, slicing it apart and defeating the beast. The system announces, Floor 998 boss defeated. Quest complete. Yuda takes a deep breath and says the fight was harder than he expected. The fairy notices his worried face and asks what is wrong. She smiles cheerfully and says only the top floor remains, they will soon be free and can see their families again. Yuda smiles back, but something still troubles him. It has been 3 years since he was summoned to this tower. Only one final challenge is left. So close to the end. He wonders what waits at the top. The fairy calls to him again. He shakes his head to clear his thoughts, touches the huge door, pushes it open, and steps onto the tower's final floor. No matter what waits ahead, Yuda feels confident. With his high stats, no monster can stop him. He is sure he will win and finally go home. But the moment he steps into the final room, what appears is not a monster. Flames rise, and a dark, demonic figure steps out with a scary smile and glowing eyes. When the flames fade, Yuda sees a man with long hair. He is left completely speechless. The man, Asura, looks around and asks, "Who are you people?" Yuda is even more confused. The little fairy trembles in fear. Yuda stares and mutters, "Some random old guy." He looks around the room and asks, "Is this man really the final boss of the tower?" Asura frowns, wondering where he is. Then he realizes Maya truly sealed him inside this place. Yuda hears the man speak clearly and decides he must be an intelligent monster. He pulls himself together, draws his sword, and prepares to fight. This is the final boss, he cannot let his guard down. Yuda charges with all his strength, trying to end the battle quickly. But Asura blocks the attack easily with one hand. Yuda is shocked. The boy keeps attacking, swinging his sword again and again. Asura barely moves and deflects every strike with his arm. He does not even step from his spot. With one final effort, Yuda jumps high and shouts, "This is the end." He pours all his power into his holy sword of Asterion and unleashes heaven's judgment. Asura smirks and calls him a brat. To Yuda's amazement, the man catches the glowing blade with his bare hand. The ultimate skill stops completely. Yuda cannot believe it. This really is the final boss. His system guide starts analyzing for a weakness. It finishes and shows a high chance of success. But Asura only glares at the sword calmly. With one quiet word, Yuda's system screen flashes a critical error. The success chance drops to less than 1%. Yuda panics. He has never met an enemy this powerful in the entire tower. A dark, demonic aura surrounds Asura. Yuda wonders what kind of being this old man truly is. Asura smiles and says, "Don't be so scared, kid. I don't waste my time fighting people who aren't worth it." Yuda is speechless. Is he really not worth a fight? Asura adds seriously, "At your level, even one punch from me would be a waste." Then he looks at Yuda and asks, "What is this place?" At that moment, Yuda finally understands. His skills failed from the start because this stage is different. To deal any damage, he must prove his true strength, without relying on the system. Yuda takes a deep breath and says, "I'll prove my strength, no doubt about it." A system window appears and activates his chosen hero skill. For a short time, all his stats reach the maximum the system allows, 999, the screen shows every attribute at 999. Yuda looks at the numbers proudly, but Asura stares at the blue window and laughs coldly. To him, numbers like 999 for strength and speed are pathetic. He finds it disgusting that anyone would use a glowing screen to measure real power. Seeing this, Asura says he no longer cares about the purpose of this place. His hand glows with power as he decides to correct the boy's wrong thinking. Yuda feels the deadly killing intent and screams while raising his sword to fight. Asura charges forward and declares he will first destroy that disgusting blue screen. With one powerful punch, he strikes Yuda's status window directly. The blow sends Yuda flying through the air as he shouts in shock. Yuda screams in despair, unable to believe what is happening. The status window shatters into pieces, and the entire system takes heavy damage. Yuda wonders how this is even possible. A bright white light bursts from the tower. All his data is wiped out. And the system shuts down forever. Asura glares at him and asks if he finally understands that true strength cannot be measured by numbers. With a smirk, Asura says this boring game of numbers ends now. Yuda collapses to the ground, completely defeated and powerless. His level drops back to 1. Crying, he can only say sorry for everything. 3 years ago, Yuda was summoned to the tower with many companions. They climbed together, but only he survived. In that memory, Yuda asks his fairy companion, Nova, if they will ever return home. The more he thinks about it, the stranger everything feels. Nova agrees, it might be impossible to go back. But she also says their path must have a greater purpose. Those words cheer Yuda up and give him hope. Back in the present, Asura looks down at him and says, "Your little numbers game ends now." Yuda falls to the ground, completely defeated. His level drops back to 1. Tears in his eyes, he admits he was wrong. Asura walks closer. Yuda desperately tries to open his status window. His inventory, and his quest screen, but nothing works. He panics and shouts for the system to restart. He cannot believe what is happening. Asura calls him pathetic. "Are you still trapped in that game?" he asks with disgust. Those ugly blue windows will never appear again. Terrified, Yuda crawls backward and begs for his life. Asura stares at him coldly and repeats that he does not kill anyone who is not worth fighting. Then he asks again, "What is this place? How do I return to my own world?" Yuda realizes Asura is also a player. He explains that the only known way home is to clear the final floor of the tower. There is no other method. Asura does not understand the words and looks confused. Yuda thinks the man must come from a very ancient time. He sits down, trying to find simpler words. Finally, Yuda says, "To leave, you must clear the whole tower. You have to pass every floor, from the first to the last." With a sly smile, Yuda adds, "Since you're a player too, you should start by doing the quests." Asura misunderstands completely. He shouts that he will smash the tower to pieces. Yuda tries to stop him and explain that towers are not cleared that way, but it is too late. Asura releases a powerful wave of energy and begins destroying everything around him. Explosions start from the bottom and race upward. The entire tower begins to collapse. Yuda watches in shock and screams, "Why are you destroying the tower?" The system announces errors as huge chunks of the tower fall apart. Yuda falls among the rubble, terrified. He cannot understand how anyone can destroy a tower with bare hands. In the middle of the fall, Nova suddenly appears. She calls Yuda's name desperately. Yuda is surprised to see his old companion again. Nova reaches him, grabs him tightly, and holds on so they stay together. I'm sorry I was late, she says. I went to get your sword. A sword lay forgotten behind them. Right after, Nova grabbed Yuda's arm and said, we have to get out of here now. Something huge is coming. Yuda looked around, confused. What could be worse than this? He thought. Nothing seemed more dangerous than what was already happening. Suddenly, bright light surrounded them. A loud system alert rang out, illegal access detected. Then a massive black hole opened in the air and began swallowing everything. Another warning flashed, all tower data will be deleted. Yuda turned and stared in horror at a giant purple hole in the sky. Broken pieces of the tower were flying straight into it. If we get pulled in two, he whispered, we're gone forever. The system voice spoke again, trash bin almost full. Undelete data is leaking. Far away, Asura was still releasing his power, destroying everything around him without caring. Then he paused. He felt like he had stepped on something. He looked down and saw Yuda and Nova standing right in front of him. Both Yuda and Nova froze in shock. Asura turned around, puzzled. Even though the tower was completely destroyed, nothing special had happened. He had just stepped through the huge hole, and it vanished behind him. He shrugged and said, I did exactly what you told me, kid. I cleared the whole place. Yuda shouted, that's not clearing it. You went way too far. He warned Asura, if you keep breaking everything, something really bad will happen. Just then, a pillar of purple energy shot up from the ground. Yuda jumped back in surprise. Asura stared at it calmly. From the light, a woman with long white hair stepped out. Asura's face darkened. An unwelcome guest, he muttered, but when he saw her face clearly, he went pale and screamed, Myeowool. Thought it was the same woman who had betrayed him long ago. She looked at him with cold disgust and said, you little brat. You destroyed my tower. Asura's rage exploded. He charged at her, yelling about her betrayal. Without showing any concern, the woman simply raises her hand to stop the attack. With a simple gesture, she unleashes a wave of power that sends him flying and stuck into the ground. Seeing the scene, Yuda screams desperately for the man Asura. Unable to believe the woman's power, Myeowool approaches and asks Asura if he didn't hear her the first time. With a look of contempt, she repeats that she asked if he was the one who destroyed her tower. Yuda is in shock, realizing she defeated that monster with a single blow. He wonders if this could be the Goddess Eshua that Nova had mentioned earlier. Getting up, Asura digs his fingers into the earth and says he finally understands. He states that she is very different from the Myeowool wall he knew, as she uses a strange power. From this, Asura concludes that she was the one responsible for building this darn tower. With a hateful smile, he accuses her of being the creator of this disgusting numbers game. Asura screams that he did everything they asked and cleared the place completely. He continues to complain about that darn tower and that disgusting status game, too. Hearing the Asura words, Nova and Yuda shocked and staring at him withstanding. The woman Eshua also staring and listened to Asura and Asura Countess. Because of this, he lunges forward and demands that she send him back to his original kingdom. The woman stares at him with a mocking smile, unfazed by his threat. Right after, Eshua starts laughing, finding the whole situation hilarious. She then asks who told him that ridiculous story about going back home. Seeing this, Yuda and Nova felt surprised and nervously confused. Asura gets up and she tells him to break whatever he wants without a care. Mai challenges him, saying that if he destroys everything she's created, she'll send him back. Suddenly, system announces that data from the recycle bin is being restored in front of Yuda. With that, several players begin to appear, and the boy is left confused about what's going on. He's in shock when he sees that these players are his former deceased companions. With a wicked smile, the woman says that the towers he needs to destroy now are different ones. The scene shows a world filled with countless towers, revealing that many more still need to be conquered. Yuda burns with anger. When he sees how cruel it all is, a golden aura bursts from him. Right away, he charges forward with all his strength, sword raised. But the woman blocks his attack easily with her purple energy. She catches the blade in her hand and calls him trash for daring to attack her with such weak power. The dead companions came back to life one by one. Eshua looked at Asura and said, it won't be easy from now on. There are still many towers left in this world that you need to destroy. Then she laughed loudly. Yuda stared in confusion at his friends who had died, now standing alive again. One of the revived companions grabbed his arm and said, Yuda, let's hurry and climb the tower. Everyone, to the tower. On the other side, Eshua gave Asura a mocking smile. No matter how much power you have, you cannot break the balance of this world so easily. Suddenly, Yuda's anger exploded. He rushed at Eshua with great speed, jumping high and pouring golden aura into his sword. He swung down with all his strength. But Eshua's automatic defense blocked it without effort. She looked at him and said, what? This worthless trash. Filled with rage and despair, Yuda screamed, how are my dead companions here again? He remembered how they had all risked their lives climbing that meaningless tower. Is this why you brought us here? He shouted. He attacked again, but with a simple wave of her hand, Eshua threw him backward. Looking down at him with cold superiority, she said, "You are all just pawns in my world. This world I created is still unstable. It cannot exist without your power. That is why I gave you fake quests and made you climb the tower, to steal your strength." She laughed and added, "I have no more use for someone who has no power left." With those words, she pushed Yuta far away. Yuta shouted, "How dare you do this for such a reason?" Eshua replied, "I no longer have any business with you. Now disappear." She gathered powerful energy in her hand, laughing as she prepared to strike him down. Tears filled Yuta's eyes. He clenched his teeth and thought, "Damn it, it's all my fault. I never should have climbed that tower in the first place. If only I had been a little stronger, a little wiser. I could have defeated that woman." Eshua told him to vanish forever and attacked. Yuta lay on the ground, crying and blaming himself for everything that had happened to his friends, but suddenly, a hand appeared from nowhere and tore apart the powerful strike Asura had launched. Eshua's eyes widened in shock. It was Asura. He slammed her into the ground with terrifying force, creating a huge crater. Eshua could not understand how he had moved so fast. Asura looked at Yuta and said, "Kid, you've earned my respect again." With a smirk, he turned to Eshua. "How dare you touch my prey before I do?" Yuta could not speak. Asura continued, "Your courage is good, but it's still too early for you. I will be the one to finish this woman, no one else." He charged forward and landed a powerful punch. The blow exploded with energy and destroyed everything around them. Asura smiled. "Only I will end her." Eshua was surprised by his strength, even without a system to help him. But she said, "I won't let such wild power run free." She attacked with purple energy. Asura grew angry at her tricks and tried to break free, but she trapped him inside a magic circle. "Conquer all the towers," she said. "I will wait for you at the highest place in this world." Then she vanished. Asura fell to his knees, surrounded by her purple energy. A memory came to him, an old voice named Myeowul, asking him long ago to conquer all the nations of the world. He thought to himself, no matter how much I think about it, that woman and Myeowul. They are really very similar. Asura wonders why she sent him to a place like this. He calls out her name, Myeowul. Suddenly, one of the revived knights charges straight at Yuta. The boy blocks the blow, but the knight's strength shocks him and overwhelms him. Yuta shouts the names of his old friends, calling out to Young Myung-hoon and asking if they no longer recognize him. His little fairy, Nova, warns him that it's pointless, they are only echoes of old memories. Even knowing this, Yuta hesitates to fight the people who were once his companions. Then Asura appears. With one punch, he defeats a knight attacking Yuta and says, "What are you doing, brat?" Yuta stares in surprise as Asura easily kicks another enemy away. With a serious look, Asura orders the boy to lead him to the towers right now. Yuta is shocked and argues that these knights are his friends. Asura scoffs and asks if those things truly look like companions. He says they are simply vengeful spirits of the dead, and nothing can change that. He adds that if Yuta wants to waste time with ghosts, he will go to the towers alone. At that moment, the knights swarm toward Asura. He turns his back on them, dodges swiftly, and strikes back without effort. He grows angry at these ghosts for daring to block the king's path. He declares he is busy and will destroy them all at once. Asura unleashes a powerful attack surrounded by a reddish aura. But right after, he bends over in pain. He looks at his hand and realizes he cannot feel his energy. He wonders if his dantian has been sealed. With a furious smile, he understands that the woman Eshua is testing him. He declares that no matter what she does, nothing will stop him here. When more ghosts rush to attack, Asura punches straight through several of them and proclaims himself the strongest of all time. Facing the huge horde, he decides it is time for a warm-up. He leaps high, strikes with his fists, and charges in, sending ghosts flying everywhere. Yuta watches in shock and admits that this old man is a monster for fighting alone. But he notices a serious problem: no matter how many ghosts Asura defeats, they keep respawning without end. If the fight drags on, even Asura could tire out. Yuta decides he must help. He grabs his holy sword. Just then, Nova appears and tells him to calm down, the situation is too dangerous. She warns that using the holy sword without his full stats could destroy his body. Yuta says he knows the risk, but a ghost grabs him and calls him into the darkness. The spirit of his old companion begs him to climb the tower together again. Yuta uses the holy sword's power to break free. With a determined expression. He says he must act to avenge his dead friends. No matter what happens, he will find the woman Eshua who caused all this. Yuta shouts to get Asura's attention while the man keeps fighting the ghosts. With confidence, Yuta asks if the warrior can take his next attack without dodging and tells him to keep drawing the enemy's attention. Asura does not understand aggro and gets annoyed. He tells the cheeky kid to shut up and stop giving orders on the battlefield, then attacks more ghosts. Yuta's plan works, all the enemies focus on Asura. Yuta seizes the chance, leaps over the horde with his sword raised. For a moment, he looks at the faces of his former companions and feels pain in his chest. Tears fill his eyes as he apologizes to his friends one last time. He swears he will avenge them, no matter the cost. Then he releases the full power of the holy sword. A massive golden magic circle forms in the sky. Bright energy crashes down, creating a huge explosion that wipes out all the ghosts. Asura smirks and calls the boy a bold, reckless brat. Yuta drops to his knees, barely able to move. Asura admits that the kid is actually quite useful after all. Yuta breathes heavily and looks at Asura with a determined gaze. He tells him to remember one very important thing between them: the one who will finish that woman will not be Asura. Completely exhausted, Yuta collapses. Asura easily picks him up in his arms. With a wide grin, he laughs and calls the boy a sassy, insignificant brat. He wonders how the kid dares to give him orders twice, but admits the boy made him laugh. As a reward, he promises that if Yuta grows stronger, he will get his chance for revenge. With a confident smile, Asura says he will eagerly wait for that day. The scene shifts to a ruined place covered in strange runes. A large hole gapes in the ground ahead. A mysterious warrior wearing a skull helmet and carrying an axe stands on a sharp rock at the edge of a cliff, surveying the landscape. Suddenly, a strange purple energy begins to glow from the eye sockets of the skull helmet. The scene opens in a remote valley surrounded by tall cliffs, with a powerful waterfall crashing down in the background. Asura sits under the waterfall, letting the heavy water pound his body to regain his strength. He stares ahead with fierce focus, enduring the training. The force of the water is so strong that it shatters the rocks around him. Still, he feels nothing, no inner power at all. Anger rises in him as he remembers how that woman, Eshua, dared to seal his dantian. He calls her bold for doing that. Realizing he has no other choice now, Asura turns to Yuta, who is still unconscious on the ground. He kicks him hard. "How long are you going to sleep?" he growls. Then he grabs Yuta and throws him down again. Yuta slides across the dirt. Annoyed, Yuta stands up, gripping his sword. "You muscle-brained gorilla. You're finally showing your true colors." Asura smirks. "You still don't understand the situation, brat. Do you want to die?" Yuta glares back. "Finish me then. But first, shouldn't we find that woman?" Asura's anger flares. "You idiot. She's hiding inside the towers. This whole world was created by her." Yuta and the little fairy Nova shrink back, scared of Asura's rage. With a wild smile, Asura continues, "If I destroy every tower, I'll force her out." Yuta sees the logic but wonders why he has to follow this madman. Nova whispers to Yuta, "No matter how you look at it, he's dangerous. He broke his own status window, who knows what else he'll do." Asura overhears and turns sharply. "What are you two whispering about?" Nova jumps in fear and hides behind Yuta. "I don't want to travel with you," Asura says coldly. Then he pauses. "But your sword skills might be useful, brat. Besides, you want the same woman I do. With your weak body, you'll never beat her alone. From now on, I'm training all of you, together." The scene shifts to a massive, strange-looking tower standing before them. A voice says, "We finally made it." Asura stares at the tower and thinks, this is one of the towers she built. He turns to Nova. "In just a few days, you've grown a lot, girl. With a body like that, you'll be useful." Nova bows seriously. "Thank you, master. It's all because of your training." Asura nods, then asks, "Where's that weak brat?" In the background, Yuta can barely walk, leaning on a stick for support. His body has no energy left. Nova proudly flexes her new muscles while Yuta mutters, "Just give me a second." He looks at them and says, "You're both lunatics." He stares at Nova in shock. She looks completely different, stronger, more muscular. Exhausted, Yuta collapses. "I can't take another step." Asura glares at him. "Pathetic brat. You can't even keep up." Then he looks at the tower. It's ugly and strange. Nova asks, "Master, are we going inside?" "I don't see an entrance." Asura smirks. "We don't need an entrance. We're going to smash this thing to pieces." Nova's eyes light up. As expected of Master. One punch and it's gone. Yuta panics and tries to stop them. "Wait. Think about this." But it's too late. Asura charges forward. Purple energy gathers in his fist. Just as he swings, a system warning flashes, "Critical error. Force transfer to tower interior." All three are suddenly pulled inside. Yuta screams, "You crazy old man. You didn't think at all." The scene changes to a ruined city, crumbled buildings. Dark sky. A blast of purple energy explodes against one of the structures as the three crash to the ground. Asura stands and looks around. What are these creepy buildings? Yuta gets up, confused. Where are we? He notices Nova has returned to her small, normal size. She touches her arms sadly. My muscles. They're gone. Looking at the destroyed city, Yuta wonders if this is even a real city. Nova, scared, asks if they're back in their original world. Yuta shakes his head, he's sure this isn't his world. Then Nova points to bodies lying on the ground. Are those players? Yuta wonders why there are so many dead people. Suddenly, a voice echoes, heed my call. Purple energy rises from the bodies. One corpse screams in pain, Asura watches quietly, understanding what is happening. The souls of the dead gather in the sky. A figure in a suit floats down from above. He looks at the group with a superior smile. New players summoned to the tower. Interesting. Don't bother resisting. Only I will reach the top. He raises his hand, drawing in the purple soul energy. A giant skeleton forms before them. The system calls it the King of Spectres. Yuta stares in shock. That's way more than just a skeleton. The monster's purple eyes glow as it attacks. Yuta shouts, Asura, get out of the way. It's too strong. Asura laughs. Dangerous? To me? He charges and punches the skeleton with one devastating blow. The creature shatters into nothing. Asura turns with a smirk. Useless trash. He glares up at the man in the sky. You think that weak thing makes you the strongest? You dare claim the top with such little power? The man looks down calmly. Hiding behind a monster. Is that what you think? Right after that, the man uses his power again. Several more creatures appear beside him. He says he has changed his mind. With a challenging look, he tells Asura, I'm going to test you. Let's see how long you can survive. The two monsters charged at Asura together. Asura smirked. This is your test. He said. He raised one fist. Creatures like you dare to challenge me? With a single swing of his arm, he smashed one beast backward. It crashed hard into the wall. He turned to the man who had summoned them. You think this tests me? The second beast, a skeletal monster with purple energy glowing in its eyes and swirling across its face, snarled. Chains burst from its body and shot toward Asura. Asura stood still. The chains wrapped around his arms. For a moment, he looked surprised. Then a lion-like spirit beast leaped from the shadows behind him, claws ready. Asura's eyes flashed. He gathered his strength and struck. His huge hand slashed through the lion beast again and again. He cut off its head, tore out its eyes, and sent blood spraying from its mouth. One massive arm flew through the air. In seconds, the beast lay in pieces on the ground. Asura brushed his hand. That tickled, he said. A deep voice echoed through the darkness, summon the abyssal horde. Hundreds of skeleton soldiers and monsters appeared behind Asura and rushed him at once. Asura took one step forward. Power surged from his foot. A wave of energy exploded outward. Every monster shattered and flew through the air like broken toys. Suddenly, a giant titan beast charged in with terrifying speed and swung a huge fist. Asura did not move. He raised his own fist and blocked the blow. The titan beast screamed in pain, shocked that its attack had failed. A deep voice echoed again, summon shackle wraiths. Countless ghostly figures wrapped in rattling chains rose from the ground around Asura. He was still holding the massive fist of the titan beast with one hand. Asura glanced at the wraiths and frowned. What are these? The man suddenly appeared right behind Asura. His eyes were cold and sharp. I don't understand, the man said quietly. I can't sense any stats or skills from you. So how do you have this much power? Asura turned and looked at him with a serious face, but said nothing. The man gripped two swords. Purple energy flowed around the blades and glowed in his eyes. No need for answers, he said. I'll take your soul and find out myself. He raised his swords. A huge purple light exploded in the sky above them. With a powerful swing, he unleashed Brand of Extinction. A massive wave of destructive energy rushed toward Yuta and Nova. Yuta's eyes widened in shock. That power is insane. He's fighting that monster on equal ground, one-on-one. Just who is this guy? Nova's face turned pale. Yuta, run. He shouted. That's no longer a normal player. I don't know why, but I feel it clearly, that man is giving off the same kind of power as Goddess Eshua. The battle between Asura and the man tore the tower apart. Dust and smoke filled the air. When the dust settled, the man stood calmly. Is this finally the last soul? He said. He was a troublesome one. He looked at the beast beside him. With this, my contract with Goddess Eshua is complete. He raised his hand. Purple energy gathered around it. Nameless player, he commanded, soul absorption. With a cold stare, he added, I will put your soul to good use. But in an instant, Asura appeared out of nowhere behind the man. With blinding speed, he slashed through the beasts at the man's side and cut off their heads. The man froze in shock. Asura stepped forward. You mentioned a goddess, he said. Are you talking about the woman who sealed my dantian, that cursed woman? He stared straight at the man. I've been looking for her. This works out nicely. Unless you want to die here. Tell me where she is. The man smiled. Sure. This fight wasn't going to end so easily anyway. But don't get the wrong idea. Purple energy surged around him. Dozens of glowing swords appeared in the air all around them. The one who dies in this tower won't be me, he said. It will be you. He sent every sword flying toward Asura. Asura blocked them all with his bare hands. Still smirking, he caught one sword, yanked it toward himself, and threw it straight back at the man. The force was so strong that even the air around it shook. The man's eyes widened in surprise as the sword flew past him and smashed into the wall, blowing a huge hole through it. The man smiled again. You really are an absurd monster. Purple energy swirled around the man's hands and swords. I won't deny it anymore, he said. You are strong. Now I will fight you with everything I have. He commanded, armor of Hades. Dark armor formed over his shoulders and arms. He leaped forward with incredible speed and swung both swords at Asura. Cold eyes gleaming, he laughed. Try to take this. A massive wave of purple energy burst from his blades. Asura ducked low. The energy missed him and slammed into a nearby building, tearing it to pieces. Asura smirked. Is that all, brat? Not yet. The man shouted. He twisted in the air, jumped even higher, and prepared a stronger attack. Asura clenched his fist. You're right about one thing. The gap between our power is huge. He blocked both swords with his bare hand. A massive explosion erupted, destroying everything around them. The man felt a flicker of fear, then forced a laugh. Yes. You really are strong. For now. He turned his cold gaze toward Yuta, who had been watching in shock. You said you were looking for Goddess Eshua. The man asked Asura. She is the one who gave me this tower. But I haven't gained full control yet. So I made a contract with her. I would offer the souls of 10,000 players, and in return I would become the true master of the tower. He smiled darkly. And now, with this last soul, I've finally collected them all. In a flash, he appeared beside Nove and reached out to absorb his soul. Yuta's eyes widened. No. Nove. He drew his sword and charged. You bastard. Get away from him. The man didn't even look at him. Small fry should stay out of this. A huge beast appeared behind Yuta and slammed a hand into his chest. Blood sprayed from Yuta's mouth. He collapsed, eyes wide in shock. The man laughed as more titanic beasts gathered around him. Yuta lay on the ground, blood pooling beneath him. A system message appeared. Quest, succession ritual, acquired the final 10,000th soul. Full authority of the tower will soon be unlocked. Time remaining, 1 minute and 4 seconds. The man turned back to Asura. Looking at you, he said, I can tell you're a spirit master who controls vengeful ghosts. Asura's eyes narrowed. In my kingdom, there were always a few who practiced these vile arts, he said coldly. Wicked, twisted scum. I never thought I would see such disgusting techniques again here. Aura suddenly flared around his hands. I don't usually lower myself to use such filthy methods, he continued. But you've gone too far. Now watch carefully. A massive wave of pure aura surged from his palms, the true power of spirit arts. In an instant, the souls trapped inside the titanic beasts began to flow toward him. The man froze, his face pale with shock. He's stealing the souls I collected? Impossible. The system shouldn't allow this. Yuta's soul returned to his body first. Then the rest of the gathered souls streamed into both Yuta and Nove, bringing them back to life. Asura looked down at the two revived players and smirked. Now go wild, brats, he said. Do whatever you want. It's your turn. To crush that pathetic worm. Yuta suddenly regained consciousness. He stared at his own body lying motionless and felt like a ghost. Panic surged through him. What's going on? He cried. Don't tell me. I'm dead. He turned toward Asura and shouted, You did this, didn't you? Give me back my body right now. Asura's face darkened with anger. You idiot, he snapped. Who do you think you're blaming? If I hadn't stepped in, your body would have died long ago. That bastard used spirit arts to rip your soul out and turn you into his puppet. I stole his technique to stop him. By separating your soul from your body, I gave your flesh time to heal. So shut up and do what I say. Asura's anger faded into a cold smile. I also took several of the souls he was controlling. He's lost most of his power now. Yuta was still confused. He floated closer, staring at his empty body, trying to understand. Asura continued, You think spirit arts are nothing special? They don't seem to change much at first. Brats, show him the true power of spirit arts. One of the men stepped forward. Purple energy flared around his feet as he glared at Asura. You stole a few souls and now you think I'm worthless? He said. The man grew furious. Purple energy surged across his body, and his eyes glowed the same color. He stepped closer to Asura. Enough of your bullshit, he snarled. I don't know how you stole those souls, but the ones you took are nothing, just a drop in the bucket. As he spoke, he raised his hand. Purple aura flared brighter, and more demon beasts rose from the ground. Skeletons clattered up beside them. Then even more spirit puppet beasts appeared all around him. You call that the true power of spirit arts? He mocked. With just 2 people. Ridiculous. Asura laughed loudly. Ha! Just 2 people. You still measure strength by numbers alone. At that moment, Yuda leaped forward. Yellow aura flowed along his sword as he swung at one of the puppet beasts. The blade sliced deep into its shoulder. The creature let out a pained howl and flew backward, crashing far away. Dust exploded into the air from the impact. The man stared in shock. His eyes widened. What? Is this power? He thought. Where did it come from? Just moments ago, this kid was half dead, more puppets prepared to attack. One huge beast with a massive mouth and purple energy dripping from its face charged straight at Nova, who was still unconscious and standing motionless. Yuda saw it and shouted, Nova. She hasn't woken up yet. The beast reached its peak and lunged to strike. Suddenly, dark power exploded from Nova's body. Her aura turned overwhelming and black. She struck the beast's face with terrifying force. The massive creature vanished in an instant, completely destroyed. Nova blinked and regained consciousness. She looked at her hands in surprise. I feel really strong too. Yuda rushed over and called, Nova, are you okay? She nodded, still amazed. Yuda turned back toward the enemy with a cold expression. I think we both got a lot stronger because of these spirit arts. Or whatever this is. But if we keep fighting like this, it'll never end. He looked at the growing army, spirit puppets, giant beasts, screaming souls, zombies, and skeletons, all covered in flowing purple energy. Asura glanced at the man and noticed he was still using his power to summon even more puppets without stopping. Asura looked at Yuda and Nova and said, listen carefully. To stop him, we have to destroy that disgusting system window first. My dantian is sealed, so I can't use blast. Breaking it won't be easy. Yuda asked, but there is a way, right? Even with your dantian sealed, you can still use spirit arts. Asura clenched his paws into fists and nodded. Exactly. I can't use internal chi, but external chi is no problem for me. He turned to Nova. If there's enough chi, I can create power equal to blast. Your chi is special, kid. Lend it to me. Nova's eyes widened in shock. Deep inside the dark tower, dust floated everywhere. A system notification suddenly appeared in front of the man, warning. The number of souls required for the quest is insufficient. Acquire more souls to complete the quest. The man stared at his blue system window and muttered, those worms wasted the souls I needed. Anger filled his voice. But I can collect more later. First, I must get rid of those pests. He raised his hand. Purple energy swirled around it. My souls. He shouted. Answer my call. Hundreds of soul puppet beasts appeared around him. He pointed forward and commanded, sweep away every enemy in sight. Asura watched the army of puppets and said to Yuda, we only get one chance. Trust me and give everything you have. Open a path so I can reach him. The puppet beasts charged forward while the man controlled them from behind. Yuda gripped his sword. Don't worry, he told Asura. I'm not doing this because I trust you. I'm doing it for Nova and for myself. I will open that path. Yellow aura covered Yuda's sword. He shouted, Holy Sword of Assyrian. Bright holy light burst from the blade. With one powerful swing, he cut a wide path through the puppets. The man laughed as he watched from his system window. Fools. You waste all your strength just to clear my army. It's useless. You can't handle all the souls I've collected. Suddenly, Asura appeared out of the darkness right in front of him. Just as I thought, Asura said with a wild grin. Every time my spirits died, you opened that blue window to check it. Coward. The man's eyes went wide with shock. Asura gathered spirit energy into his fist. Nova poured all his chi into Asura to make the attack stronger. Asura roared, your annoying games end now. And punched the blue system window with full force. Fist King Asura style, destruction. A huge explosion blasted everything around them. The system window cracked and shattered into pieces. The name Lee Chanwoo, level 99 and his endless HP and MP vanished with it. The man screamed, this can't be. His mouth hung open in horror. In his mind, he thought, everything I built. Destroyed so easily. I can't accept this. His eyes turned red with rage and fear. My stats. My power. My world. All gone. A final system message appeared, error. Error. Soul data damaged. All souls will be permanently deleted. Quest succession ritual failed. Yuda collapsed to the ground, exhausted from clearing the path. Slowly, he stood up again. He placed a hand on his chest and felt his heartbeat. Huh? He whispered in surprise. I'm back in my real body. He looked at Asura with amazement. My body really healed, just like he promised. Who is Asura, really? How strong is he? Meanwhile, the man fell to his knees. Tears of anger streamed down his face. This can't be true. It can't end like this. Because of you. Because of all of you. He shouted. The only way to save my world from destruction is gone forever. His eyes burned red and purple with pure rage.
After losing Lee Chanwoo talking about his past when Lee Chanwoo was walking on the street with headphones on, heading to school. Suddenly, he heard people shouting and running behind him in fear. He turned around, took off his headphones, and looked up. A huge number of teleportation gates appeared in the sky. He stood frozen in the same spot, shocked. Then the city was attacked. Fire spread everywhere. Buildings collapsed. People died horribly. One man had an iron rod pierced through his chest. Many others lost their lives while trying to escape. Lee Chanwoo was the only one who survived. He stood there in complete shock and fear. Sweat covered his face, and his eyes were wide open with terror. Suddenly, a woman appeared in front of him. A blue screen popped up, introducing the system. Then Yuda showed up, trapped or confused, and asked Lee Chanwoo, "What are you talking about all of a sudden? The world was destroyed? Aren't you a player from another world like us? So why would your world suddenly?" Before Yuda could finish, Lee Chanwoo put his hand on his head. Tears filled his eyes as he said, "When I became a player, my world was already doomed. A monster wave was going to destroy it. I wanted to save my world no matter what." His eyes turned cold, and tears fell as he continued, "I thought I could save it with my own power. With only one goal, to save everyone, I climbed to the top of the tower. There, I learned the truth, the person who conquers the tower gets the power to create a new world." Yuda was surprised and asked, "A new world, the power to create?" Lee Chanwoo looked at his hand and said, "Yes. I used that power to try and remake my world inside this tower, exactly as it was before the destruction." Then he shouted with anger and pain, "I wanted to save and protect them with my own power. Finally had the strength to protect everyone." He clenched his fist tightly and yelled with tearful eyes, "But everything is ruined because of you. If you hadn't interfered, the quest would have." Before he could finish, Asura angrily interrupted, "Stop with the cowardly excuses. You coward." Asura kept talking coldly. "Someone like you wants to save the world? Save everyone? Then why did you run away when your world was being destroyed?" Lee Chanwoo's eyes opened wide in shock. Asura continued, "You never really planned to save them, did you? You said you wanted the power to recreate the world, not to save it. Is that power just some pathetic game of numbers to you? Even if you rebuild the world inside this tower, what real meaning would it have?" Asura stepped forward and said calmly, "Since grief has made you forget reality, let me remind you of one thing. You just wanted to escape your weak, painful reality. And play the hero." Lee Chanwoo shouted in anger, "Shut up." He raised his fist and charged to attack. But with just one hit, Asura knocked him down hard. Lee Chanwoo flew back and crashed into the wall. Blood came out of his mouth as he coughed. In his mind, he thought, "I really did it to save everyone." Then he remembered a past conversation with Ensure. Ensure had said, "Player, you have finally cleared all the stages of the tower. Now you have two choices. If you want, you can return to your world right before it was destroyed. You can face the monster wave and try to save your world." Lee Chanwoo stayed silent. Ensure smiled coldly and continued, "Or you can accept a special quest. Inherit the full power of the tower and recreate the world you lived in, right here inside the tower. Make your choice." She asked coldly, "Will you go back to your original world, face the monster wave, and become a hero in an endless war? Or will you use this power to create the world you want? And become the savior of that world?" Lee Chanwoo thought for a moment. Then he answered, "I will inherit all the power of this tower. And save my own world." Back in the present, inside the tower, a system warning appeared, "The tower's system is collapsing. All data inside the tower will be deleted." Yuda looked at Nova and asked in panic, "What is this now? Don't tell me. The tower is collapsing?" Rocks started falling around them. Yuda turned to Asura in fear and shouted, "Mister. What do we do? At this rate, we'll all die with the tower." Suddenly, Lee Chanwoo spoke again, weak but clear. "Eshua once told me something." Hearing the name Eshua, both Asura and Yuda paid close attention. Lee Chanwoo continued slowly, "All the towers in this world are connected by one single path." As he spoke, the last of his remaining power faded away. Yuda looked shocked. Lee Chanwoo went on, I don't know exactly what that one path means. But maybe. If you reach the end of that path, you will be able to meet the Goddess Eshua. With a tired, sad face, he said, if you want to find Eshua, seek out that path. Yuta asked, confused and emotional, what do you mean by that? And why are you telling us this? Lee Chanwoo sat on the ground and spoke in a low, tired voice. Because the memories I tried so hard to ignore have come back. Now I finally understand. He looked straight at Asura and said, that muscle-bound man was right. I was just a coward running away from a weak, painful reality. I got drunk on the idea of playing hero. Even if I admit it now, nothing will change. He gave a painful smile and continued, after all, I gave up the chance to return to my original world. His voice became quieter. So in this empty world with nothing left, I have no reason to keep living. The exit is behind you. If you wait any longer, even that exit might disappear. Before the tower collapses completely. Hurry and get out of here. Asura looked down at Lee Chanwoo and said calmly, you intend to stay here and die. Understood. You were a coward, but you are not pathetic. Do what you want. Asura turned and walked toward the glowing exit that had appeared. As he walked, he said, if I meet that woman later and crush her, I'll do it for your share too. Yuta quickly called after him, surprised, mister. Are you really just going to leave him here? Yuta added, he can come with us. He can look for Eshua too. Asura turned his cold eyes toward Yuta and said sharply, silence, you ignorant brat. He was defeated in a real life or death battle. Then Asura looked back at the huge teleportation gate and spoke again. For the winner to spare his life and let the loser choose his own place to die. What greater mercy could there be? Yuta looked confused and turned toward Lee Chanwoo, but, before he could finish, Nova interrupted urgently. There's no time, Yuta. Soon the entire tower will completely collapse. Yuta clenched his teeth. I know, Nova, but I can't. He shouted with determination, I can't just give up on a person's life. Then Yuta bent down, lifted Lee Chanwoo onto his back, and carried him. Nova looked shocked. Lee Chanwoo spoke weakly while being carried on Yuta's back. What are you doing right now? I have no power left. No purpose left. Even if I leave the tower like this, I have no reason to live anymore. Yuta looked at him and shouted, even if you say you have no reason to live, if you keep going, a reason will appear someday. So don't just throw your life away. Lee Chanwoo became silent. Sadness filled his face, but he didn't say anything more. After a moment, he asked quietly, you. What is your name? Nova looked at both of them, confused. Yuta said, annoyed, oh, seriously? In this situation, you have to ask that right now? Then he answered, it's Kim Yuta, you jerk. Happy now? Lee Chanwoo replied coldly. Kim Yuta. That's a peculiar name. Yuta shot back, what? Are you done talking? Then what's your name? Lee Chanwoo answered, I am called Lee Chanwoo. Yuta laughed a little. Not exactly a grand name either. Then Lee Chanwoo said seriously, Kim Yuta. I have one final request for you. Suddenly, a yellow wave of light passed over his shoulder. It gathered into a glowing power that came from the tower. Yuta stared in surprise. Lee Chanwoo continued, please use this power for the right cause. Yuta was shocked and asked, what is this all of a sudden? Lee Chanwoo said firmly, get off me. Who asked for something like this? Even if I leave the tower, I will disappear soon anyway. Without the power of the system, it's impossible to keep this body alive. His body slowly started to fade and vanish into light particles. As he disappeared, he spoke one last time, Yuta. You must return to your original world. Yuta looked at him with deep sadness. Tears filled his eyes. He held the glowing power tightly in his hand and shouted, Lee Chanwoo. At that moment, the system warning appeared, the tower is completely collapsing. Time remaining, 1 second. All data in the tower will be deleted. The entire tower began to break apart and slowly got absorbed into a huge purple energy. The system announced coldly, number 312 tower has been completely destroyed. Somewhere far away, Eshua sat watching everything. A small smirk appeared on her face, now that's just one tower. You better try harder, unstat player. After defeating the tower keeper, the tower slowly began to disappear. The system sent an alert, all data of the tower has been deleted. From far away, Yuta and Asura watched the tower vanish. Yuta could not believe it. He said, really? Everything is gone. Then he looked at the new power flowing in his hands. With sadness, he whispered, from the moment the stat window shattered. Was it already too late to save him? He remembered Lee Chanwoo's final moment and thought, if the stat window breaks, the player's real body dies too. That means I should have died already. So why am I still fine, unlike Lee Chanwoo? He stared at the disappearing tower and wondered, do I still have some of the system's power inside me? Suddenly, Asura stepped closer and asked, why have you been making such a serious face, kid? Asura looked at him with a serious expression and said, is it because that spirit master died? He gave a small laugh. You're more sentimental than you look. Yuta kept holding the new power in his hand. He looked at Asura sadly and replied, yeah, so what? Are you going to nag me again? He stared at the power again and said, Lee Chan-woo. That guy. I just feel uneasy about it. He was definitely a bad person, but it feels strangely bittersweet. And in the end, he gave me this. He lifted his hand with the power. He told me to use it for the right cause. And to make sure I return to my original world. Yuta looked at Asura and said, I don't know what kind of power this is, but right now. It feels right to give it to you first, mister. Asura reached out and took the power into his hand. He looked surprised and said, I can feel that damn woman's chi inside this. Maybe. With this power, I can finally unseal my dantian. After hearing that, Yuta asked in surprise, really? Then will you regain all your strength? Asura looked at the object in his hand and said calmly, don't get ahead of yourself. With this amount, I will recover only a tiny fraction. Although the feeling from this object is the same as hers, it is much weaker than the powerful chi that sealed my dantian. Yuta looked curious and asked, I've been wondering for a while. What exactly is this dantian? You're already so strong even without it. Asura held the object and stared at it. The power I use now comes from external arts. It is pure physical strength, nothing more. Both Yuta and Nova looked shocked. Yuta asked nervously, so? Since you met Eshua, you've been fighting with just your raw physical strength the whole time. Nova added quietly, he's a monster. Asura spoke in a cold voice, if I recover my dantian, I can use internal energy. He continued explaining, internal energy uses the power of chi that flows through my body. It allows me to show strength far beyond external arts. Yuta's eyes opened wide. Internal energy? Is it like a magic skill? Then he thought to himself, come to think of it, that man was strong even without a stat window. If he had stats, how high would they have been? He was strong enough to destroy both the stat window and the tower. Yuta looked down sadly. Nova noticed and asked. Yuta, what are you thinking about? Yuta blinked. Huh? Oh. I was just wondering what Mr. Strength would look like in stats. Suddenly, Asura appeared behind him and lightly tapped his fist on Yuta's head. Are you still judging strength by those blue windows and numbers? Yuta rubbed his head in pain and said nervously, he has sharp ears too. Nova whispered, he's definitely a monster. Yuta asked Asura, then what is real strength to you? Asura gave a small smirk. Foolish. He raised his hand and said, strength comes from blood and sweat. It comes from training and effort. He clenched his fist tightly. Listen carefully. To throw a strong punch, I swung my fist 1,000 times a day. But if someone else swung it 1,001 times, does that make me weaker? He stood firm, feet planted, and the air around him seemed to press down. No. It's not just about the number. It's about how much you yearn for power with every single punch you throw. Asura pulled his fist back slowly. He held the position for a few moments, building pressure in the air behind him. He took a deep breath and said, in other words, true strength is what you gain when you put your whole heart into achieving what you desire. His eyes turned blue, and a powerful aura flowed around his fist. The air pressure grew stronger. Then, with full force, he threw his punch forward. A huge noise echoed. A bright light flashed across the area. The force of the punch blew everything in its path away, nothing was left standing. Even the dust swirled wildly around them. Yuta and Nova stared with wide eyes, completely stunned by the power. Asura looked at them and asked calmly, do you understand now? He glanced back at the object in his hand. Power still flowed from it into his palm. His eyes turned red, and his face showed anger. Anyway, the real problem is how to use this power properly. He gripped it tighter and thought bitterly. Damn it. It's full of things I don't understand. Myo-wool. What on earth were you thinking? High on the mountain, thick fog covered everything. Yuta and Asura were still talking about the power of the object. Asura suddenly tossed the object to Yuta and asked, is this the first time you've seen it too? Yuta caught it and replied, yes, that's right. Because of someone, my stats got destroyed before I could finish the tower. I thought everything would end once I reached the top. Asura listened and said, okay, I understand. Then he turned, looked at Yuta, and gave a small smirk. So. Would that guy know about this power? Yuta suddenly felt something and looked around. He noticed it too. Asura smiled wider and spoke in a cold voice. Reveal yourself. At that moment, a hidden figure stepped out from the fog. Yuta and Asura both stared at him, confused. Asura frowned after looking closely. What is this again? A monster that survived the tower? But I don't see any red aura. The man stood silently. A strong purple aura flowed around his one eye. He wore a skeleton mask shaped like an animal's skull and held a huge, powerful axe in his hand. Asura narrowed his eyes and asked sharply, "Who are you?" The man wearing the big animal skull mask on his face said nothing. He simply raised his huge axe and pointed it at Asura, clearly challenging him to fight. Asura looked happy at the challenge. He laughed with a cold, chilling aura flowing around him. "Fine. No need for words. Come." The skull-masked fighter pushed 1 foot hard into the ground to build power. Purple aura surged around him. Then he jumped forward and swung his purple energy-covered axe straight at Asura. Asura bent down quickly and dodged the attack. He smiled, clenched his fist, and threw a powerful punch. The single hit sent the skull guy flying through the air. The skull guy managed to steady himself in midair. Purple aura flared brighter around his eyes. He spun his axe and came crashing down again with a fierce strike. Asura stayed in the same spot, not moving at all. The skull guy used a powerful move, an early splitter. Heavy purple energy exploded outward, destroying everything around them. Rocks flew everywhere, and the whole area shook. When the dust finally cleared, blood spots were scattered on the ground. But Asura stood unharmed. He had caught the axe blade directly with one hand and stopped the attack completely. Asura smiled and smirked. "You have quite the stance." The skull guy stayed silent. Asura gripped the axe tighter, pouring more power into his hand to try to break it. However, he shoved the axe back hard, forcing the skull guy to release his grip. Then Asura stepped forward and smashed his fist into the masked face. It is futile to target this king with just that. The powerful punch shattered the skull mask into pieces. The fighter flew backward a long distance and crashed hard. Asura smirked and said, "Try harder." After that heavy blow, a voice echoed from the fallen figure, "I can't forgive. I will never forgive." The fighter slowly stood up. Their eyes glowed with fiery anger. Yuta stared in shock, mouth wide open. That person. The hoodie fell back a little. It was a woman. A large mark covered part of her face. She still held her axe tightly and glared at them. "Why did you all destroy my tower?"
Yuta looked at the shadowy figure. His eyes opened wide in surprise and shock. He said, "Well, it's true that we destroyed a tower. But we weren't sure if it was your tower." Nova also looked surprised and shocked by his words. The figure gritted her teeth in fury. Then she shouted angrily, "Don't play dumb! I clearly saw you destroy the tower," she asked loudly. "What is your goal? Why are you doing this?" Asura stayed silent. His narrow eyes and cold expression showed nothing. But she kept talking. "If it weren't for you, because of you, I've been wandering this empty, desolate world for 2 whole years." Yuta looked surprised again but kept listening quietly. She continued, "I would have returned to my original world long ago." Before she could say more, Asura suddenly raised his hand and hit her hard on the head. She fell down unconscious. Asura said coldly, "Why does a loser have so much to say?" Yuta was shocked. He could not believe what just happened. The sun was setting. The sky grew cold, and night was coming soon. After some time, she woke up. She sat on the ground. Yuta and Nova stood beside her. She said softly, "I'm sorry. I misunderstood you. And I almost hurt you." She touched her head sadly and whispered, "I'm truly sorry." Yuta smiled happily. He gently put his hand on her head and said, "It's fine. It was an understandable mistake. Please stand up." Nova also felt happy. He held Yuta's sword in his hand. She stood up on her feet. Yuta said kindly, "By the way, it's really surprising that you reached the top of the tower with those stats." Then he asked curiously, "Miss Kalina, may I check your status window one more time?" Kalina said, "Oh, one moment." She opened her status window and showed it to Yuta. "Here's my profile, Kalina level 86 HP, 80,000 MP, 120,000, STR 1 AGI, 1 INT, 1 LUK, 1 remaining stat points, 86 million. Yuta's eyes opened wide in shock. He thought to himself, "This is unbelievable. No matter how many times I look at it. She really reached the top of the tower with these stats?" He looked at Kalina, still shocked, and thought, these numbers mean she just leveled up over and over but never used her stat points. To think something like this is possible. Is this person also a powerhouse on the same level as that mister? Yuta stood beside her and asked. You said you didn't see anything at the top of the tower. Right. Kalina nodded. Right. There was nothing. Not even normal monsters appeared. Instead, I got a message saying stats are insufficient, and then the tower started to disappear. Yuda put his hand on his chin and thought for a moment. Then he said, an error happened because the stats were not enough. As expected, that must be Eshua's doing. Kalina looked surprised. Eshua. Yuda explained. Eshua is the entity that gave us these status windows and powers. It also called us to the tower. We are chasing that entity so we can return to our original world. Kalina looked at Asura and said, if that's true, then that person too. She asked. But what is he doing right now? Asura was sitting on the ground. He held the special power they got from the previous tower keeper in both hands. He closed his eyes. Energy started flowing around his body. Yuda looked at him too and said nervously, good question. Suddenly, the power in Asura's hands floated into the air. His mana glowed brighter and stronger. He was trying to unlock and release his sealed dantian. All at once, Asura released a huge burst of energy. The powerful pressure made nearby rocks fly away. A strong stream of energy shot straight up into the sky. Yuda and Nova quickly covered themselves as the pressure wave hit them hard. Yuda shouted, what is this now? Asura's body was wrapped in glowing chains. A bright blue aura flowed around him. The chains were blocking his dantian. Yuda saw it and thought, he's just trying to recover his dantian. Why are the effects so dramatic and flashy? Suddenly, a strange aura struck Yuda's mind. He froze in fear. His face turned dark. His eyes glowed with strange light. He grabbed his head and thought, my head. Suddenly. Then he screamed in pain. Suddenly, a memory hits Yuda. He sees a huge mansion being destroyed by a massive explosion. Dust flies everywhere. Fireballs fall from the sky, crashing into the mansion and burning everything around it. A strange figure stands high in the sky, throwing powerful fire down with great force. Eshua looks up at the figure, crying loudly and screaming, no! Yuda feels confused. He thinks, what are these memories? That face looks somehow familiar. Meanwhile, Asura stands up slowly. Dust swirls around his feet. He raises his hand and says, my internal energy has started flowing a little. But it's still too weak. I need much more power to unseal my dantian. He thinks of Eshua and mutters, the seal that woman put on me. I have to break it using that power, right? A smirk appears on his face. Interesting. Then Asura looks at Kalina and Yuda. I've found a way to regain my full strength. If I absorb these energies, I can completely restore my dantian. He smirks again. So hurry up. Let's go to the next tower, kid. Yuda steps forward and asks, but not every tower has a successor's power, right? Some towers might not have one yet. Suddenly, a voice says, no. I know the way. Yuda turns around, shocked. Nova. He stares in surprise. Why do you look? A purple aura flows around Nova's body, the same power that belonged to the tower sprite puppet from before. Nova speaks calmly, I don't know what happened either, but I can feel it. Everything in this world, all the powers, big and small. She releases a small burst of purple aura. I think I know where the successor's powers are heading. I can guide you, Yuda. Yuda listens carefully, his face turning serious. Nova looks determined and says to where the successor's powers are being used. Yuda nods, his expression now strong and focused. Then our next destination is set. Scene change. A large mansion stands hidden in thick night fog. Bright lights shine from its windows. Inside, the air moves gently, but everything stays quiet, only silence echoes. Suddenly, footsteps ring out through the halls. A tall, quiet man with long ears steps forward. He wears a single monocle over one eye. He speaks clearly, the Bloodwind Fields, the farmlands personally designed by the Demon King, are collecting their monthly harvest share as maintenance fees. The Dark Mine, as planned, delivers 1 gold bar every month. The Demon King sits on his grand throne. He laughs loudly. Good, good. At this rate, 1 million coins won't be far away. He looks at the long-haired man and says, Graydon, you've worked hard for a long time. Take some rest. Graydon bows slightly and replies, however, there is one unusual matter. The Demon King raises an eyebrow. Unusual matter? Graydon nods, yes. While a soldier was patrolling the eastern wall, he reported seeing an unidentified group. It's not confirmed yet, but based on my own judgment of their identity. In the demon realm, it seems a new hero party has appeared. The Demon King leans forward. A new hero party? Have they still not learned their lesson? A mad smirk spreads across his face. His eyes glow with a fierce red aura. 2 sharp demon horns on his head pulse with bloody red energy. He speaks in a low, dangerous voice. All right, fine. Whoever they are, let them come. No matter who it is. The scene shifts. He sees Yuda, Nova, Kalina, and Asura in the distance. The Demon King laughs darkly and finishes. They won't be able to take even a single step inside my castle.
A system message appeared, player Kalina's stats confirmed. System code approved. Transporting to tower number 008. After they arrived, everyone looked surprised. Yuta waved his hands and cried, "What the? We are inside the tower already? Just like that?" He rubbed his head happily and nervously, then said to Asura, "This is so easy. If you have stats in this world, things are much better." He laughed. Asura answered calmly, "Pathetic fool. You still talk about those blue windows. Even this time is wasted. I need to heal my dantian fast." Asura then looked at Nova and asked, "Hey kid, where is that successor person?" Nova pointed with his finger and said, "The successor's power is right inside. It is a big mansion over there." Inside the big mansion, a voice rang out, "You failed to defeat the Demon King again, Hero Evan." A man with a beard shouted, "How long do we have to wait until you kill the Demon King?" Evan smiled, rubbed his head nervously, and said, "We were so close. But the equipment broke at the last moment, you know." He laughed again. He added cleverly, "If you give us just a little better equipment, I am sure we can do it this time." The king, who sat on the throne with a big mustache and beard, said in shock, "Equipment? A few months ago we gave you the best equipment, right?" Evan answered with shame, Yes, but those weapons were not my style." Ha ha ha. With a big smile, thinking of a beautiful lady, he added, "Oh, and while we are at it, can we pick some new saintesses? My holy power feels weak lately." The king gritted his teeth in anger and shouted, "Your shamelessness has no limit." Then he roared, "Evan James. You are no longer the hero of our kingdom. You are banished." Suddenly, many spears floated around Evan. He looked surprised. He waved his hand nervously, laughed in confusion, and asked, "Why are you acting like this again? I am telling you, this time will be different. I have a secret weapon ready." Before he could finish, the king yelled, "Do you think I do not know? You used the fight against the Demon King as an excuse to waste the kingdom's money and live wildly." The king's eyes narrowed. He looked serious and said, "If you do not leave right now, I will kill you here." Evan James smirked, raised one hand, and said, "You are too angry today. Do you know how much I have done for this country?" Suddenly, a loud explosion happened behind him. The wall blew apart. Rocks flew everywhere. The guards and Evan were shocked. One guard cried in fear, "What is this?" Another asked, "What is happening?" A third guard saw Asura and shouted, "Don't tell me. Is this a raid by the Demon King's army?" Nova pointed at Evan and said to Asura, "It's that person. I can feel the successor's power coming from him." Evan James stood there in shock and panic. Asura made a fist. Air gathered around it. He bent low, ready to attack, and shouted, "If you don't want to die, hand over your power right now." One guard yelled, "How dare you cause trouble here? Do you not know where you are?" Another guard shouted, "Subdue that bastard at once. The punishment for insulting the royal family is immediate execution." Asura swung his fist. A wave of air pressure flew out and hit the two guards. They flew into the air and crashed hard. Evan stayed in his spot, still shaking with fear. Then he looked at Asura with cold eyes and thought, "What was that just now? Two royal guards sent flying. With only one punch. This guy is..." Suddenly Evan smirked. He started laughing loudly and shouted with excitement, "Look, Your Majesty. These people are the secret weapon I told you about." Asura looked at him in confusion. Yuta and Kalina also looked confused. But Evan kept talking. "It is not just this man who has superhuman strength. Every single person here is much stronger than an average S-rank mercenary. With these people, we will surely defeat the Demon King Belzer." Nova, Yuta, Kalina, and Asura still stood in the same place. Asura gritted his teeth in anger and asked, "What?" Outside the kingdom, people were walking around normally. They had no idea what was happening inside the palace. Inside, Asura punched Evan James, sending him flying into a large pillar. The pillar was crushed from the impact. Asura shouted at him as air swirled around his body, "What kind of bullshit are you spouting?" Evan James slowly got up with a smile and said, Sorry. Are you guys new players? Or successors?" Yuta looked confused and replied, Well, we are." Before he could finish speaking, Evan James put his hand on Yuta's shoulder excitedly and said, "No, forget it. That kind of thing isn't important right now. It seems you're after the successor's power. In that case, you've come to the right place. He gave a thumbs up and said, let's defeat the Demon King together. Asura shouted in anger. His eyes burned with rage, his face turned dark, and his body filled with burning fury as he yelled, shut up already and stop this nonsense. I just need to extract that power from your body. Evan James's eyes became dark and serious. He said, oh really? Then he smiled and continued, then try taking it. You seem confident that you won't destroy the successor's power by extracting it by force. Asura narrowed his eyes and asked, what did you say? Evan James replied calmly, what? Didn't you know? If you forcibly take another successor's power, it gets destroyed. So if you help me complete the Demon King subjugation quest, I'll hand over my power willingly. Hearing this, Nova and Yuta opened their eyes wide in confusion but said nothing. Asura said with cold eyes, enough. That's a worthless proposal. Suddenly, Yuta spoke up, Mister, wait a moment. It might actually be true. Lee Chanwoo's power wasn't taken by force either. He gave it to us himself. Evan James narrowed his eyes as a green aura flowed through them. He raised his hand to shake Yuta's hand and asked happily, you're someone I can talk to, huh? Nice to meet you, I'm Evan. Yuta replied, ah. Yes, I am Kim Yuta. Then Yuta asked nervously, I have a question though. About not being able to take the successor's power by force, how do you? Before Yuta could finish, Evan James said, now then, what about the rest of you? Deal? Kalina replied, I don't trust him, but it seems we don't have much of a choice. What do you think? Asura looked at Kalina and listened quietly. Then he pointed at Evan James and said, if I sense even the slightest trickery, I will twist your neck immediately. Evan James replied, of course, and laughed. He clapped his hands and said, anyway, since we've come to an agreement, shall we get our equipment sorted first? The scene changed. Lava flowed down the mountains. Smoke filled the air. The place looked like hell. When they arrived, Evan James looked around and said, so this is the demon realm where the Demon King lives. It is much bigger than I thought. Asura, Kalina, Nova, and Yuta stared in shock. Their eyes grew wide with surprise. But Evan James shouted with excitement, now. Let's go defeat the Demon King. Suddenly Asura got angry and threw away the new equipment he had just put on. Evan James saw it and asked quickly, huh? What do you think you're doing? Asura changed back into his old clothes and said, things like this only get in the way. I don't need them. Evan James looked confused and said, okay. But it was expensive though. Then he turned to Kalina and asked, you don't need it either? Kalina looked at her equipment and said, I like it. Asura said quickly, stop wasting time. Where is the Demon King? Evan James replied, usually in these hero stories, we have to reach the Demon King's castle first. The Demon King's castle was huge. Dark red light glowed inside. Thick fog covered the area. Outside, many rocket launchers moved into position. A few minutes later, all the rockets launched into the air. Dust flew everywhere around the castle. The ground where Yuta, Asura, Nova, and Evan James stood was marked as the target. Yuta looked up and shouted, what are those? Wait. Don't tell me those are missiles. Oh no. This is so unfair right from the start. The missiles are coming straight at us. Inside the Demon King's castle, the Demon King sat on his throne and said, stupid hero bastard. Have you still not learned your lesson after getting beaten so many times? I will deal with you properly this time. Using my greatest masterpiece. Anti-hero hybrid state-of-the-art fully armed absolute fortress Ver 82. Evan, I will wipe you out perfectly. From the Demon King's castle. The Demon King laughed like a madman. He used the system to mark their position and launched the missile attack on the hero. The group stood below, watching the rockets fly toward them in panic.